I used to work private security, one of those temp hires they throw at industrial sites for night shifts, just to say they've got someone watching. You know the kind of place: chain link fences, floodlights that buzz like dying insects, and more gravel than God ever intended. This gig was at a quarry just outside of town, Stonehill Aggregate. About 30 miles east of nowhere, surrounded by pine and fog. One way in, one way out. The kind of job you take when rent's due and options are thin. It paid decent for what it was. Just me, a prefab trailer with a microwave that smelled like burnt popcorn, and a bank of old monitors hooked up to security cams around the site. The cameras were cheap, maybe 720p on a good day. Black and white. Infrared at night. I'd work from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Never saw anyone out there. Quarry closed at 6. Last shift of workers left by 6:30. Nothing ever happened. Until the night of September 14th. I remember the date because of the video. I still have a copy, though it's been scrubbed and re-uploaded so many times that people think it's fake. Deep fake, CGI, AI, whatever. But I recorded it. I know what I saw. That night, around 2:46 a.m., the motion sensor on camera 6 pinged. I remember because it rarely went off. Camera 6 pointed toward the far east pit, an area they'd stopped using 2 years back after some erosion made it too unstable. Nothing ever moved out there except maybe deer. But when I clicked over to the feed, something was standing just outside the light's reach. It looked like a man, tall, maybe 6 feet 5 inches or more. But something about him wasn't right. He wasn't standing still, not exactly. His limbs twitched, like he was trying to hold still but couldn't quite manage it. The footage was grainy, low-res, and flickering in and out. Static kept cutting across the screen like old VHS noise, even though the system was digital. I zoomed in, tried adjusting focus, but the thing stayed blurry. Not camera blurry, wrong blurry. Like the pixels themselves didn't want to line up around it. The more I stared, the more my eyes started to hurt, like staring at an optical illusion for too long. Then it moved. Not like walking. More like a skip in the footage, like one frame he was near the edge of the pit, the next he was 20 feet closer. I flinched and actually backed away from the monitor. I radioed into dispatch like protocol says, but they brushed me off. Said maybe it was a glitch. No officers dispatched. So I did something I wasn't supposed to do. I took out my phone and recorded the monitor. A dumb move, yeah, but I wanted proof. I figured if the system was glitching, I could still catch what I saw. I have that footage. I've watched it dozens of times. It's still just as blurry. Just as wrong. At 2:51 a.m., the figure was gone. Just gone. No walking out of frame. No fade. Just blinked out, like someone cut the film. The floodlight over that pit blew out 5 seconds later. Sparks, pop, total darkness. I didn't go out to check. I stayed in that trailer, sitting in a cold sweat, clutching my phone. Didn't sleep when I got home. I uploaded the clip to a private cloud and didn't tell anyone for a week. But that's just the beginning. Because 2 nights later, camera 4 picked up something worse. I told myself I wasn't going back. After that night, I seriously considered quitting. But like I said, money was tight. I figured maybe it was just a trick of the cameras. A glitch, maybe? Sleep deprivation? Something explainable. You try to rationalize things when you don't want them to be real. So I went back. September 16th, 2 nights after the figure in the pit, I clocked in like usual. Nothing unusual on the logs. Weather was clear, moon was out. I even brought a thermos of coffee from home, thinking I'd try to keep alert. It was quiet for the first few hours. Nothing on the screens except a raccoon nosing around the dumpster behind the office shack. I was almost starting to feel stupid about the whole thing. Like maybe I had just seen a glitch. Then at 3:12 a.m., camera 4 pinged. That one faces the main conveyor belts near the north section, where they used to crush and sort the rock. It's an open area, all concrete and rusted metal. Long stretch of gravel leading up to it. When I pulled up the feed, I didn't see anything at first. The motion alert was going off, but the screen just showed an empty stretch of gravel. The IR lighting was a bit hazy, fog rolling in from the trees. Then the camera shook. Not like a gust of wind, I'm talking a sudden jolt, like something massive had hit the pole it was mounted on. The screen wobbled, then steadied. And that's when I saw it. At the far end of the gravel strip, just where the fog thickened into shadow, there was a figure. But this time it was on all fours. It didn't look human. It was too low to the ground, and its limbs were too long, like the joints were bent backward. The silhouette was stretched, hunched, like someone crawling but forgetting how to be a person. And it moved wrong. It didn't walk. It shuddered forward, like every few feet its body spasmed and yanked it further. No sound, of course, the feed had no audio, but I swear I could feel the way it moved. I still remember the way its elbows stuck out at angles. I hit record. Again I used my phone. Same result. The thing came out fuzzy. Not motion blur, like it was fighting the camera. I couldn't get a clear frame of it. But the part that still gives me chills is this. At 3:14 a.m., it stopped. Right in the middle of the frame. And it turned. It turned toward the camera. Toward me. There's no face you can make out. Not really. But even through the grain and static, there's something about that moment. Like it knew it was being watched. Like it was posing. And then it crawled backward, same spasming, jerking motion, until it disappeared into the fog. Gone. No other cameras picked it up. Nothing triggered the motion alerts after that. But here's where it gets worse. The next morning, when the day's supervisor came in, he found something on the gravel strip. Right where the thing had stopped. Deep gouges. 4 of them. Like someone had dragged iron bars across the stone. Each one about 3 inches wide. And blood. Just a few drops, smeared like someone had coughed it up and wiped it away. There were no reports of accidents. No animals found. No tools missing. They blamed it on a cougar. But I know better. Because that night, something changed. The cameras started glitching more. Random static. Motion alerts with nothing there. One monitor would flicker on, then off, like someone was standing too close to the signal. And I started hearing things. In the trailer. I tried to act normal when the morning guys came in. Didn't tell them about the second video. Didn't mention the gouges or the blood. They'd already dismissed the first recording. No way they'd believe this. But when I got home, I couldn't sleep. I watched both clips again, over and over. Paused them frame by frame. Every time I tried to get a good look, it felt like my head started to ache, like I was looking at something I wasn't supposed to see. That night, September 17th, I went back again. Same shift. Same routine. But it didn't feel the same. From the minute I sat down in that trailer, I had the distinct sense that something had followed me in. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see someone at the door. Or in the shadows by the breaker panel. At 1:09 a.m., I started hearing it. A clicking sound. Not electrical, not like a relay switch or faulty wire. This was more organic. Like bone tapping on bone. Quiet at first, maybe 5 or 6 soft clicks in a row, spaced out by a few seconds. I muted the monitors. Stood up. Listened. Nothing. I checked the breaker box. Opened the door and looked outside. The floodlights hummed. The gravel was undisturbed. Trees in the distance, still and dark. Then I heard it again. Behind me. I spun around. The trailer was empty. But the door was slightly open. I know I closed it when I came in. It's a heavy door, you have to lean into it, metal on metal. It doesn't just drift open. I shut it hard. Locked it. Sat back down. I told myself I was being paranoid. That the quarry was messing with my head. Isolation. Stress. But my hands were shaking, and the hairs on my arms were standing straight up. Around 2 a.m., the temperature dropped. Not gradually, like a cold draft had just poured into the room. I could see my breath. I put on my jacket and still felt like I was standing in a meat locker. Then the monitors glitched. All at once. Every single feed scrambled, like someone was twisting the antenna inside out. Static tore across the screens. Some went black. One flashed a single frame of something I didn't catch before it disappeared. I jumped up and hit the main power button on the console. Did a full reboot. When the monitors came back up, Camera 1, pointed right at the trailer's front door, showed a shadow. It stood just outside the floodlight's edge. Unmoving. Tall. Not hunched like the crawler from Camera 4. This one stood straight. Human-shaped. But like before, the camera couldn't quite capture it. It shimmered at the edges, like heat rising off asphalt. And it was facing the door. My door. I froze. Didn't breathe. Didn't move. The figure stood there for over 3 minutes. Then the feed flickered. The image jumped, and it was gone. I unlocked the drawer under the desk, pulled out the emergency flashlight and the flare gun we kept there. I didn't know what else to do. I sat the rest of the shift like that, light in one hand, flare gun in the other. No more motion alerts. No more clicking. No more shadows. Just silence. Like whatever it was, had seen enough. The next day, I did something stupid. I sent the first video, the one from Camera 6, to an old friend of mine, Darren, who used to work tech support for a private security company. He owed me a favor. I asked if he could enhance it, maybe stabilize the footage. He sent me a single reply. What the F*** is this? Why does the timestamp jitter like that? This isn't compression. Did you mess with the metadata? I hadn't. He said the video had. Frame drift. Something he'd only ever seen when two pieces of footage were spliced at uneven intervals. But I hadn't spliced anything. It was a single take from the feed. Darren never replied again. I followed up 3 times. Nothing. Ghosted. That night, September 18th, I seriously considered calling out. But again, money. Bills. So I went in. At the start of my shift, I noticed something strange. A white unmarked van parked near the maintenance shed. No logos. No plate I could see. Nobody said anything about visitors. No calls, no logs. I radioed dispatch to ask. Got a guy I didn't recognize. Said his name was Cliff. Never spoken to him before. He had this flat, drawling voice, like someone trying to sound bored. I asked him about the van. There was a pause. Then he said, Ignore it. Just maintenance doing spot checks. That didn't sit right. Nobody does maintenance checks at 10:30 p.m. I asked for clarification. He repeated himself, same words, same tone. Like a recording. Then the line went dead. I tried radioing again, nothing. Dead channel. 10 minutes later, the monitors started acting up. One by one, the camera feeds began to freeze, each stuck on a frame of empty terrain. Static shimmered at the edges, but no motion alerts. All except Camera 7. That one showed the access road leading into the quarry, the only way in or out. At exactly 11:03 p.m., a person stepped into frame. No headlights. No car. Just walked up from the direction of the woods. He looked like a man, tall, wearing a high-vis vest like the workers used, dark jeans. But the vest was wrong. It had no reflectors. Just a flat yellow fabric, like it was printed from memory. His face was fuzzy. Not obscured. Just unreadable. Like the pixels refused to arrange themselves into anything human. He walked slowly. Deliberately. Step by step down the gravel path toward the trailer. I locked the door. He kept coming. At one point, he stopped and looked up, straight at Camera 7. And then he smiled. That's the part that still gets me. Because even through the blur, the camera captured that smile. Wide. Too wide. And wrong. Like it was drawn on afterward. Then, without breaking eye contact, he raised one hand and pointed. Not at the camera. At me. I bolted. grabbed my keys, left the monitors, and ran out the back exit of the trailer. Didn't even check to see if he was really outside. I ran through the gravel, across the lot, toward the toolshed where we kept the backup radio. I fumbled the lock open, tripped over a shovel, and slammed the door behind me. Radioed dispatch again. This time, a different voice answered. A real voice. Janice. The night lead. I asked her who Cliff was. She went quiet for a second. Then she said, "There's no one named Cliff in dispatch." Janice stayed on the line with me until my breathing steadied. I didn't tell her everything, just said there was someone wandering around the site in a vest, unmarked van nearby, radio interference. Enough to get someone sent out. She said she'd call the county sheriff's office to dispatch a cruiser. I waited in the toolshed. Sat on a coil of frayed extension cord with a crowbar in one hand and the emergency radio in the other. 20 minutes passed. No sounds. No knocks. No voices. But at one point I did hear gravel crunch outside. Just a few steps. Deliberate. Right outside the shed. Then silence. I didn't move. Eventually, I saw headlights through the gaps in the siding. A cruiser pulled in near the main office, and a deputy stepped out. I recognized him, Mendez. Used to come around during night patrols. I ran out before he even knocked. Told him someone was on the property, possibly armed, possibly impersonating site personnel. I described the vest, the van, everything. He did a full walk with me. We cleared the area. Van? Gone. Not a trace. No tire marks. No tracks. Nothing. We checked the camera system. He had me pull up the footage from camera 7. Here's the thing, the recording was there. Timestamp matched. Feed showed the gravel path, static shimmer, but no man. Just fog. I showed him the phone video I took, filming the monitor as it played live. That did show the man. Clear as the feed had allowed. Mendez just stared at it. Then he asked, "You sure this isn't doctored?" I wasn't even mad. I'd have said the same thing in his place. But he agreed to file a report. Told me to keep my eyes open, lock the trailer if I felt unsafe. Before he left, he walked back to his cruiser, then stopped short. Bent down near the access road like he saw something. I followed. He pointed. There, pressed into the gravel, just barely visible in the moonlight, was a bare footprint. Not a boot print. Not a shoe. Bare. Toes, heel, arch. All of it. Clear enough that you could see the lines where skin would have pressed down. Except, it wasn't normal. The toes were too long. Not stretched like a freak accident, more like they weren't meant for human feet. Each toe was narrow, bony, with a hooked curl at the end. It looked like a handprint. Mendez scraped at it with his boot. Gravel shifted too easily, print erased. I'll never forget the look he gave me. "You should think about quitting this job," he said. "Whatever's out here, it ain't just trespassers." He drove off. I went back to the trailer, double-locked the door, and sat with my back to the wall until dawn. When morning came, I told the site supervisor I wanted to review some camera footage from the last week. Claimed it was to check for blind spots. He gave me access without much fuss. I went straight to camera 6. The pit. I rolled the footage back to 3 days before my first sighting. That's when I found the first sign. At exactly 2:17 a.m., for less than 4 seconds, the frame caught something climbing out of the pit. Just a silhouette. Long-limbed. Blurred beyond recognition. But unmistakably alive. I should have stopped right there. Deleted the clips. Quit. Never looked back. But once you start peeling something like this open, you can't stop. It's like a loose tooth, you keep poking at it, even when you know it's going to bleed. So I went to the pit. In daylight. It was off limits. The ground was unstable, the dirt along the rim fractured from years of erosion. Signs all around warned of sinkholes. No entry. Authorized personnel only. I walked the perimeter with a safety vest and clipboard so no one would question me. Most of the area was just collapsed shale and broken machinery. Rusted rails. A few ancient buckets half buried in rubble. But near the far edge, where the old excavator tracks still led down the slope, I found something strange. Footprints. Not recent, not fresh. But preserved in the dust like something had crawled out and then circled back. They weren't human. Long, stretched impressions. Toes like claws. And the depth, whatever made them, was heavy. Right at the mouth of the slope, something else, a shredded piece of denim. Faded blue. Torn at the edges. Stuck on a jagged rock like it had been caught during a scramble. There was blood on it. Dried to black. I called the supervisor over. Told him I thought I found signs of animal activity. Maybe a bear. Played dumb. He looked at the tracks, the torn fabric, and just nodded slowly. Didn't ask too many questions. Said he'd log it. But I saw the way he avoided looking toward the pit. Like he already knew. That night, I showed up for my shift early. Brought extra batteries, a printed map of the site, and both my phone and a small handheld camcorder. At 1:48 a.m., camera 6 flickered. Static. Then black. No motion alert. Just dead. A few seconds later, camera 5, mounted on a pole near the access road, started shaking violently. You could hear the metal creaking through the wiring, even though the feed had no audio. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Then something burst across the frame. Just a blur. A smear of movement, low and fast. It was in the compound. I switched to camera 3. Nothing. Then camera 2, something moved past the floodlight, just beyond the pile of limestone. I tried to trace its path. It was circling. Like it was watching. Then camera 1, the one pointed at the trailer, picked it up. Standing in the lot, facing the trailer, again. This time, closer. Only about 20 feet from the door. And it was moving, slowly. Walking forward in those twitchy, jerky motions. Not crawling. Not hunched. Walking upright. But its limbs. They didn't bend right. The knees bowed outward. The arms swung like they were too long, like they didn't belong to a human skeleton. And even with all the distortion, I saw its head tilt in a strange, curious way, like a dog studying something new. It kept walking. 15 feet. 10. Then it stopped. Lifted one arm. And knocked on the trailer door. 3 sharp knocks. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't exist in that moment, just froze like prey. The knock came again. Slower. Then silence. When I finally got the courage to check the monitor again. The thing was gone. Not walked away. Not crawled. Just vanished. But on the trailer door, when I opened it at dawn, there were 3 indentations in the metal. Like someone had tapped it with a hammer. No prints. No scratches. Just those perfect, shallow dents. They matched the knock pattern. I didn't sleep that day. Didn't even go home. I sat in my car outside the sheriff's office until they opened, holding the camcorder. Because I had made a decision. I needed someone else to see. I met with Mendez again. The deputy who'd seen the footprint. He was tired, maybe from the shift, maybe from dealing with people like me, but he agreed to watch the clip from the camcorder in his cruiser. Didn't say a word during the playback. Just stared. When the knocking happened, I saw him flinch. He tried not to show it, but I caught it. That tiny jolt when the knocks hit. Then he handed the camcorder back and said, "I can't file a report on this." I asked him why. Because there's no crime. No suspect. No evidence. Nothing that proves this isn't a hoax. I asked him if he thought it was a hoax. He didn't answer. Just looked down at the steering wheel for a long time. Then said, "If I were you, I'd get out of there. Don't wait for it to get worse." That was it. No one else would talk to me. Janice at dispatch wouldn't return my calls. Darren, my tech friend, still ghosted. The site supervisor started scheduling other guards to share the load. First time in weeks they'd done that. They gave me mid-shifts. 6 p.m. to midnight. Didn't want me on nights anymore. Didn't say why. I asked one of the new guys, a younger guy named Marcus, if anything weird had happened during his shift. He said the monitors kept glitching. One night, around 3 a.m., he swore he heard someone walking on the trailer roof. But when he went outside, there was no ladder. Nothing. He laughed it off like it was an animal. Raccoon, maybe? But the next night, he quit. Didn't even come back to pick up his last paycheck. I started digging into the quarry's history. Stonehill Aggregate had been around since the late 60s. Changed ownership 5 times. Found a couple of OSHA reports from the early 2000s, minor injuries, equipment failures. Nothing major. But in 1996, something caught my eye. A brief news clipping from the local paper. Search called off for missing night guard at Stonehill site. Authorities have ended the 3-day search for Wallace E. Parson, 43, last seen during his shift at the Stonehill Aggregate Quarry. His vehicle was found locked, personal effects inside. No signs of struggle. The company has declined to comment. No follow-ups. No family interviews. Nothing. I found one photo of Wallace, grainy, scanned from the paper. He wore the same kind of vest we did. And in the background, over his shoulder, that same excavator track. The one that led down into the pit. That night I went back. Not to work. Just to look. I parked outside the fence and waited until about 2 a.m. Then I snuck in. Stupid, I know. But I had to see it for myself. I walked past the office, past the trailer, down the slope toward the pit. The wind was cold. Dead silent. Gravel crackled under my boots like I was stepping on bones. And when I reached the edge of the slope, I heard breathing. Not my own. Deep. Slow. Wet. Coming from inside the pit. I should have turned back. I knew I should have. But something about that breathing, it didn't sound like an animal. It wasn't ragged or fast, not panicked. It was patient. Measured. Like something had been waiting a long time, and it finally knew someone was listening. I crouched low, flashlight off, just my phone camera rolling in night mode. From the rim of the pit, I couldn't see all the way down. It sloped off and then dipped sharply, a yawning hole maybe 30 feet across, surrounded by collapsed shale and old drill lines. The breathing kept going. Then it stopped. I froze. I knew that silence wasn't a relief. It was a decision. I didn't move for at least a full minute. Just crouched there, phone shaking in my hand, breath shallow. And then I heard a sound that'll stay with me until the day I die. Stone moving. Not a little shift, not some pebbles rolling. I mean deep, heavy grinding, like something impossibly massive was dragging itself across the bedrock at the bottom of the pit. It echoed. I lifted my phone just over the ridge and held it out, recording blindly. I didn't dare look down with my own eyes. 10 seconds of nothing. Then something shifted into frame. I can't describe it clearly. The light caught only the edge of a shape, gray, ridged, like knotted muscles stretched too tight. And eyes. Too many. Not animal eyes. Not reflective or bright. Just black, still pits that looked back. That was when I heard the voice. Not spoken. Not out loud. In my head. It didn't say words, not the way we understand them, but I felt what it meant. You see now. I dropped the phone. Scrambled back. Slipped on gravel, tore open my hand trying to catch myself. I didn't stop running until I was back at the fence. Didn't care if I was seen. Didn't care if I got fired. I got in my car and drove. Didn't stop until I reached a motel 2 towns over. I sat there until sunrise, hand bleeding into a wad of napkins, phone screen shattered from the fall. The recording? Gone. Corrupted file. Just static and a flicker of movement before the data crashed. But in the audio track, buried deep, was something else. I had the motel Wi-Fi. I uploaded it to a friend who works in audio post-production. He owed me a favor. He messaged back later that morning. I boosted the levels on that last clip. There's a frequency running under the noise, real low. You can't hear it naturally, but it's there. Almost like a tone. I asked what kind of tone. It's weird. Harmonic. Repeating. Almost like a voice modulation. Artificial. But natural at the same time. He paused. Then added, "You recording near a military site or something?" I didn't respond. Because I knew what was in that pit wasn't military. Wasn't man-made. And whatever it was, it wanted to be seen. I never went back to Stonehill. Didn't quit officially, just stopped answering calls. They stopped trying after a few days. I think they knew. A week passed. Then 2. I stayed off-grid, burned through savings bouncing between motels. I checked the local news daily, half expecting to see a headline. Worker found dead at quarry. Or, authorities investigate strange disappearance. But nothing. No incidents. No reports. No one even mentioned the quarry. Like it erased itself. I started reaching out on forums, paranormal boards, conspiracy threads, Reddit subs with more numbers than vowels. Posted fragments of what happened, never the full story. Most people laughed. Called it ARG stuff, said it was clever bait. But a very few, messaged me privately. One guy claimed he worked in geological surveying. Said there are places, mostly remote, mostly industrial, where non-natural interference messes with seismic readings. He'd seen it before, near deep mines. Another sent me grainy drone footage of a different quarry upstate. In one frame, something moved under the rock. He asked me, "Did yours breathe?" "Yes." One message stood out. Came from a burner account. No posts. No name. Just a message. "They know you saw it. Do not go back." No context. Nothing else. But that's when I noticed something. The clicking. It started again. Not at the quarry. Not even in the trailer. In my motel room. First night I heard it behind the air vent. Just soft, like fingernails tapping a plastic lid. Next night, behind the mirror. Then in the shower drain. Always around 3 a.m. Click click. Click. Click click click. It never escalated. Never opened a door or whispered my name. Just existed nearby. Watching. Reminding me. I stopped sleeping through the night. Barely ate. Jumped at every shadow. Finally, I went to a friend in IT, someone I trusted. Told him everything. Let him scan my devices. He found something in my phone. A file. Buried deep. Not an app. Not malware. Just a string of corrupted data sitting in storage. Couldn't be deleted. Wouldn't open. File name? seed_footage.tmp. He wiped the phone. Reinstalled the OS. Did a hard factory reset. It came back. He stopped helping after that. Last thing he told me before cutting contact. "You didn't just see it. It saw you." So I left. Again. No forwarding address. New number. No paper trail. I tried to disappear. And for a while I thought it worked. But then, just a few nights ago, I woke up at 3:17 a.m. Cold sweat. Heart pounding. And there, on the nightstand beside me, was a small stone, covered in shale dust, and 3 shallow knocks on the motel door. I didn't open the door. I didn't move. Just sat there in the dark, holding my breath, staring at that little stone on the nightstand. It wasn't from around here. Different texture. Finer dust. Sharp edges like it had just been broken off something deeper, older. Something buried. The knocks didn't come again. But I didn't sleep after that. I packed my things. Left before sunrise. New motel, new state. Changed my name again. But it doesn't matter. Because the stone showed up again. Different motel. New room. Same exact shape, same dust. Sitting on the bathroom counter like a message. A reminder. I used to think this was about the quarry. About that thing I saw in the pit. But I don't think that anymore. It wasn't about the place. It was about me seeing it. And once you see it, really see it, there's no undoing that. Like it seated itself. In your memory. In your thoughts. In the background radiation of your life. Sometimes I catch it now, reflections in windows that shouldn't reflect anything. Shadows in places where light never shifts. I'll hear a flicker of that clicking sound in the hum of a vending machine, or the cough of a heater. And always, that exact time. 3:17 a.m. No matter what state, what time zone. My phone will glitch. Freeze. Then correct itself. Always to 3:17. I haven't watched the footage again. What little I still have. It's backed up in 3 places. Labeled differently each time. I don't know why I keep it. Maybe because part of me thinks someone else needs to see it. Not to understand. Not even to believe. Just to witness. To share the weight. But if you're reading this, and you're thinking of looking up Stonehill Aggregate, don't try to find the pit. Don't go poking around county land records or archived footage. Because if you look hard enough, it will look back. And if it knows you've seen it, it never ever forgets.